Ruthi, Ruthi. I am professor of sociology at Huntington University. I can remember Eisenhower being president, and I remember the election in 1960, which was the Nixon-Kennedy election, which was a very close election. And I can remember the campaigning. We didn't have a television at that point, but I actually did listen to their debate on the radio. Yeah, I probably wasn't normal when it comes to things like that. I think most little kids have no idea what's going on, but I didn't realize it was abnormal. I think probably abortion in some ways wasn't as controversial then as it is now. Your generation is more pro-life than my generation was, I think. When I was your age, that would not have happened. The baby would have died. So I think maybe there's more and more awareness that even fairly early in a pregnancy, a baby could survive outside its mother. I think we always need to be concerned about protecting people who can't necessarily protect themselves, and certainly the unborn can't take care of themselves. And if we are not willing to take care of folks at that stage of life, then are we going to say to old people, well, you know, you're old, go jump on an iceberg and die or something, you know? Or people who are physically or mentally challenged, are we going to say, well, you're not perfect, so you deserve to die? So I think we need to be concerned about the unborn as well. We would think it was okay maybe to discriminate against people based on sexual orientation, and now it's like, what were people even thinking? You know, I mean, it seems like people, just because they're human beings, ought to have those basic rights guaranteed, you know, regardless of sexual orientation. Part of the question I guess I would have is, how do you interpret the Bible in light of different cultures, and how much of rules like homosexuality, for example, how much of that is relative to the culture in which the Bible was written and how much of it is absolute? And I don't really know, but I guess I would rather see us err in the direction of being too tolerant and too loving and too accepting, rather than in the direction of being too judgmental. A parallel in my own mind is passages that talk about women should keep their heads covered and they shouldn't talk in the church and their husbands should be in charge of them. And I don't really like that, and I tend to think, well, when the Bible says stuff like that, it's the culture of the day, and that it doesn't really apply today. But I think you could make the same argument with, same-sex relationships, the whole LGBTQ, yeah, get all the letters in there, issue. But I certainly can understand how people feel differently on that issue. It's a tough call, I think, to know, is this an absolute or is this a cultural recommendation? People should be free to choose to be Christian or not to be Christian, and to follow God if they want, and if they don't want, they can do their own thing. So it's probably part of a general worldview there. I tend to be kind of into freedom and independence, and don't tie me down with too many rules and regulations. Which doesn't mean that I personally necessarily live a wild and reckless life, because I really don't. But I don't want somebody telling me that I have to do this or I have to do that, as long as I'm not hurting somebody else. I mean, I certainly don't think it's okay to go up and start beating people over the head for no reason, or throwing frisbees and hitting them in the face or whatever. That's not okay, because you're hurting people. But if what you're doing isn't hurting people, I don't feel like I should be the one to judge and say you can't do that. Although, again, I would wish that people would make responsible decisions. People smoke cigarettes. Do I think there should be a law against it? No. Do I think it's a smart thing to do? No, it's idiotic. But I don't think it's my job to tell them they can't.